In 1982, Pine Hollow National Park was known for its serene beauty and pristine hiking trails. But beneath its tranquility lay whispered legends among the park rangers. Strange, unexplainable occurrences that never made it into the visitor brochures. Park Ranger Bill Thornton, a seasoned ranger of 15 years, had heard the stories but brushed them off as campfire gossip. That was until one autumn evening when he received a distress call that would change everything. It was late afternoon, and the sun was beginning to dip toward the horizon when Bill's radio crackled to life. "This is Ranger Thornton. Over." A faint voice crackled back, barely audible through the static. "Ranger, please. I'm lost. I've been on the Cedar Ridge Trail for hours. It should have looped back, but it hasn't. I don't know where I am." Bill frowned. Cedar Ridge was one of the park's easiest trails, a wide, clearly marked path that even novice hikers could navigate without trouble. "Stay put," Bill responded, grabbing his flashlight and compass from his desk. "I'll be there soon. Just don't leave the trail. Over." The hike to Cedar Ridge was routine, and the fading sunlight cast a warm golden glow over the park. But as Bill reached the trailhead, an uneasy feeling settled in his gut. The woods felt quieter than usual, almost as if they were holding their breath. Birds didn't sing, and even the wind seemed to avoid the area, leaving the trees deathly still. Bill began his search, calling out the hiker's name, but his voice seemed to vanish into the dense forest. With every step, a strange sensation grew. The trail felt unfamiliar, though he had hiked it countless times before. Minutes passed, then an hour, and Bill found himself walking in circles. The landmarks were all wrong, yet somehow the same. He passed the same bent tree 3 times, though he'd sworn he was walking straight. As the sun began to set, a deep crimson bled into the sky. That's when Bill saw him, the hiker, crouched by a rock formation, his face pale, his hands trembling. "Thank God you're here," the hiker whispered, his voice shaking. "I thought I was going crazy. I've been trying to leave, but no matter where I go, I end up right back here." Bill's heart raced. He reached for his compass, flipping it open. The needle spun wildly, never settling, as if the very concept of direction had been lost in this twisted part of the woods. "That's impossible," he muttered under his breath. "We should be heading west." The hiker stood, his eyes wide with fear. "It's not just the trail," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "There's something else. I've seen them. Figures moving in the trees." Bill wanted to dismiss it as panic, but his instincts screamed otherwise. He'd felt the eyes on him too. "We'll find a way out," he said, gripping the hiker's shoulder firmly. "Stick close." They began walking again, this time more frantically. But the forest had changed. The path was no longer clear. It twisted and looped back on itself in impossible ways. Every turn led them to the same clearing, the same rock formation, as if the forest itself was alive, bending reality to trap them. Dusk settled, and with it, the temperature dropped sharply. The woods were now cloaked in deep shadows, and that's when Bill saw them. Dark figures, just on the edge of his vision, slipping between the trees. They were human-shaped, but their movements were unnatural, jerky and fluid at the same time, as if they weren't entirely bound by the physical world. The figures watched them, their featureless forms blending seamlessly with the darkening woods. Whenever Bill tried to shine his flashlight in their direction, the light seemed to dim, swallowed by the shadowy figures. The forest grew eerily quiet, save for the crunch of leaves beneath their boots and the soft rustling of the figures moving just beyond sight. Bill's pulse quickened. "We need to keep moving," he urged, but his voice betrayed his fear. The hiker stumbled behind him, his breath ragged. "What are they? What do they want?" Bill didn't have an answer. All he knew was that every time they tried to leave, the figures would be closer, herding them back into the heart of the forest, deeper into the loop. It was as if they were being toyed with, the shadows enjoying their torment. The night deepened and the shadows closed in. Bill tried the radio, but all he got was static, as though the very air had turned against them. His flashlight flickered and died, leaving them in utter darkness. The only light now came from the faint sliver of moon struggling through the thick canopy above. The figures moved in closer, surrounding them, their forms more defined now. Bill could see the outlines of limbs, but no faces, no eyes. They didn't need them to see. The hiker whimpered, backing into Bill, clutching his arm. "I can't take this," he cried. "We're never getting out, are we?" Bill's voice was a low rasp. "I don't know. Just stay close." Suddenly there was a sharp, hissing whisper from the shadows, unintelligible but undeniably real. It was as if the figures were communicating with each other, plotting, deciding their fate. The whispering grew louder, surrounding them, pressing in from every direction. Bill grabbed the hiker's arm and pulled him forward, breaking into a desperate sprint. But it was futile. No matter how fast they ran, they ended up back in the same clearing, the same bent tree, the same rock. The figures were waiting for them, closer than ever, no longer hiding. The hiker screamed, but it was quickly swallowed by the deafening silence that followed. The last thing Bill saw before the world went dark was the compass in his hand, its needle violently spinning one last time before snapping clean off. Then, nothing. The search party combed the forest for days after Bill and the hiker's disappearance, but there was no sign of them, no bodies, no tracks. All they found was Bill's broken compass, lying eerily still in the middle of the trail, and a single note scratched into the dirt nearby. "They hide in the shadows. Stay away." The case was quietly closed, the details buried. No one spoke of it publicly, and the park remained open. But the legend grew among the rangers. Cedar Ridge became a trail whispered about in fear. New rangers were warned. If you ever get a call from that trail, don't go. Don't follow the shadows. To this day, the story of Bill Thornton and the lost hiker haunts Pine Hollow, a grim reminder that some places are not meant to be understood, and some trails are not meant to be followed. Thank you for listening. We hope you've enjoyed the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell button, and we'll notify you when the next story comes out.